Hi, Greg. Um, I need your help with a
Sure.
client I have.
Okay.
I have a client and a good friend who had the last couple of months has had chronic diarrhea.
Okay.
She has been tested for just about everything. They said everything was negative, but she still continues to have it. Her doctor suggested an old-fashioned remedy which worked pretty well for a couple of months, and that was just taking Pepto-Bismol for a couple of days because he said she might have a low-grade infection in her intestine, and it seemed to work for about 3 or 4 weeks, and now it's come back. I have tried pranic healing on her. I did it a lot for a week. It seemed to help for a while, then it came back.
Mhm.
I've tried
When you
I've
did pH, what did you do?
I'm sorry.
When you did the pH session, what did you do?
I basically just, well, I cleaned all her chakras, but concentrated on her navel, her solar plexus, and cleaned her intestines and her liver and her gallbladder. I tried to, clean it carefully. Um,
Yeah, like with pH. First, let's start with that, and then I'll walk you down the other things you can do.
okay.
You put a lot of like medium blue, not even in the center. You just hit the whole lower abdominal cavity. Just kind of keep going back and forth between like around the belly button down, but like the whole side, just like side
Okay.
to side, but like for probably 5 or 10 minutes. Like you'll energize it for a very long time with blue, like medium blue.
Medium blue. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so you have a couple options. So there can be different reasons that this can happen, and that it's been so chronic that she's had to use like things like Pepto-Bismol and stuff. The other thing that we don't really think about when it comes to chronic diarrhea is sometimes the diaphragm is very, very tight, and even though it's for respiration, it compresses some of the lymphatic vessels and
Hmm.
basically allows the gut to become more toxic.
Hmm.
And so I would do even a little bit of a respiratory treatment, but like kind of even go in under the diaphragm, the ribs, and really loosen up the diaphragm. Oils that would help loosen the diaphragm would be things like hyssop or myrtle, Sitka, things like that, just like simple things. You don't have to go anything too crazy. But the issue usually when the digestive tract is not functioning properly, like something like this, is there's toxicity issues with lymphatic stagnation that's happening in the gut, and then also the autonomic nerves, which are the involuntary part of the nervous system, are not innervating the gut like they should, or they're not firing like they should, I should say.
Hmm.
And so you have a couple things, and it's best to do it like in stages. Um, so I'm going to give you some options.
Okay.
And so right off the bat, a lot of times I have people, like sometimes I start off with just galbanum, just like a little bit of galbanum taken internally. Sometimes that can knock out the diarrhea, but actually one of the go-to things for diarrhea is actually cinnamon. And
You know,
we think of cinnamon as like, being very stimulating, which it is, but here what it's doing is it's stimulating proper like muscle movement and things in the gut. And so that usually will knock it out. But the thing that I would say, what's that?
I've been giving her cinnamon, and
And that hasn't had a big impact.
well, all these things work for a while. She puts in her coffee, and she
Yeah.
occasionally, well, she says it's too
So
hot
that
to drink in water, but
that makes me think that it's either that the nerves aren't innervating properly or the diaphragm's an issue.
Mhm.
And so again, reinforcing the diaphragm thing. Then
Uh-huh.
the second thing would be to use ANS support. It could be that you use tarragon in ANS or even rosemary verbena in ANS, but you need to like unwind the like what we'd call like a stress plagued digestive tract, and you're calming down some of the things that have been responding to the stress, but it starts to make the nerves like function better. And anytime you see chronic diarrhea, the issue is potentially that there is lack of tone in the parasympathetic part of the nervous system, which would be reflected here in the vagus nerve. And so ANS does have tarragon in it, but tarragon is very like kind of balancing to the autonomic nervous system. So it will help bring tone to that. And the other thing that you could integrate into that is marjoram, which helps tone the vagus nerve and pulls the person out of kind of fight flight. It just basically means it just pulls it out of sympathetic activity and switches it back into parasympathetic activity. And so
Would that be internal? Would she take
I would
tarragon
have her take the tarragon internally, and I would have her apply the marjoram topically.
just to her belly area then?
Yeah, belly, wrist. Honestly, it doesn't really even matter.
Okay.
Like just as long as she gets it on her body.
Okay.
Because it will start toning the parasympathetic nervous system regardless of where you put it. It's just marjoram is going to do what marjoram does, and that's one of the things that it does. And so the other thing that you can do is don't do this with essential oils, but I would go to like Amazon or a normal health food store is probably not going to have this. I mean, they might, but get wormwood capsules. Don't take essential oil of wormwood. It's too potent.
Yeah.
But the capsules, like have her take 2 or 3 capsules, like maybe twice a day, and this combination should knock it out. Like I mean, just knock it out. And so the thing with wormwood is it will kind of tone the nerves, and there's this other like kind of like mesh set of nerves in the gut that is called the enteric nerves, and sometimes those can be a little bit off. They're a little bit separate than the normal part of the nervous system. It's the only part of the nervous system that can function even if it's not connected to the brain or the central nervous system. So it's a very primal part of the nervous system. And wormwood helps to tone those up as well. Those is like a big mesh, like a spider web of nerves. And it helps with that, but also if there is any potential for like a parasite of some sort that maybe she got exposed to.
She does have parasites.
Yeah, the wormwood would knock that out.
Right.
Just knock it out. Yeah.
Let me ask you, I have a parasite cleanse that has wormwood in it. Would that be okay, or should it just?
It's usually like wormwood, black walnut, and sometimes they add clove to it. Yeah. Yeah, that could work.
That could work. Okay. One question I have, you were talking about lymph stagnation, I'm sorry, the diaphragm. You said to use hyssop and Sitka. Is it just topical?
Just inhale it. Just have her inhale it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can still do pH with it. Like you can still get up under the diaphragm and sweep it with green, sweep it with red, and just keep alternating. I know like normally it's not taught to sweep with red, but like it's actually in the advanced book with cleaning the physical heart, the heart muscle. You sweep with red, and sweeping with red does something about helping to loosen up the tissue and things like that. And so in cases like this, when you're trying to get something to release, you don't necessarily want to use orange, just because orange is very drying, and you want to release fascia here. So green is moistening and red is moistening. So you're using that to sweep the tissue, and that will actually release fascia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if for some reason that doesn't work, every once in a while, all these things don't work. There's still further steps to do, but this usually knocks it out. Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
You're so welcome. But if you need something, let us know. Email us or something. And yeah, especially if she's had it chronic like that, it's most likely it's a parasympathetic issue, like she's lacked tone there. And it's like as much as you treat the symptom, the issue is the lack of tone in the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic part of the nervous system. You could treat the symptom all day long, but that's the byproduct of loss of tone in the parasympathetic nervous system. And, I would say even wormwood helps to tone the parasympathetic nervous system to the point where sometimes when people think they have parasites, I think it's actually that they just have poor tone in the parasympathetic nervous system. The treatment can be the same, like wormwood and clove and all that can be still very helpful. But tarragon can be very good for nausea and for a little bit of vomiting and a little like diarrhea and things, just because it really unwinds the stress in a stress-plagued digestive tract. And the combination, usually with chronic diarrhea, you can't just go to one thing. You usually have to kind of hit like multiple facets, but this should knock it out. I've treated people that have had diarrhea for 15 years and within a couple of treatments, they're usually done. Yeah.
One of the questions about the vagal nerve, would it help at all to like rub some oils behind the ears and down the neck? Or
I tried with placements and things with the different oils, and it kind of didn't matter. Like I really thought, because the vagus nerve comes out from the medulla on the back of your head. And so I did a thing where for a little while I was like, well, if I put marjoram up here or there or whatever, some of the different things, it didn't matter. You could put it on the wrist. You could put it, like if they have stiff neck and shoulders, multitask with it. But inhaling it, there was one person that like every time she would get stressed out, she would get diarrhea, and then it would last for several weeks. And the normal treatments weren't working. And so I just had her inhale marjoram. I didn't even have her do tarragon. And within a day or so, she'd say it would go away. And then, when she gets stressed out again, it would happen again. And I was like, just start inhaling the marjoram. And again, it pulls them out of fight flight. Because if you think of what fight flight is, you're preparing to either fight or to run, right? I know there's also a freeze component, but a big component of it is to either fight or to run. So your body, to prepare for the fighting or the running, empties the bowels and empties out the bladder. So you can run better or fight better. So when a person is lacking tone and parasympathetic activity, and then the sympathetic part of the nervous system or the fight flight mechanism is like highly active, you start having to urinate more frequently. You have to empty out your bowels quicker. You start to have diarrhea because you're not getting to digest things. Your body's just trying to let it go to prepare for the running or the fighting. And even though there's not something for her to run from or fight from, but the thing is they might not even have anything stressful going on. It's the lack of tone in the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic part of the nervous system that slides that person into the sympathetic activity. So they might not even have stress, but it lost tone. And so that system becomes highly overactivated because they balance each other. And so if it doesn't have tone, the other one just keeps going further and further to the extreme. And so you just got to balance out the rest and repair part.
I see. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know if you ever took the sleep class, but like in one of the early phases of the sleep class, we did a thing where we had people inhale with tarragon through a couple of protocols to go through and do it. And so for one, it helps you to kind of rest and relax, and it's antispasmodic and it's soothing. But part of the issue was when you tone the parasympathetic part of the nervous system, you're preparing the body to eat, you're preparing the body for rest, you're preparing the body for repair mode. And so you're shifting that body into that rest and repair component of it. And so that's why tarragon was used for that. And it improves the quality of sleep, it improves digestion, it does all these things, but because of what it does to the nervous system.
Very good. All right. Thanks so much.
You're so welcome.